People forget Michael Jordan, and Tom Brady by some is considered the Michael Jordan of football. Number of championships are equal as well. He's searching for that 7th championship. Michael Jordan, people forget, was classically underpaid for most of his career with
Never
Chicago
was the
Bulls.
highest paid player till the end.
Till the end.
Right.
How much did he make the last 2 years?
30 and 33.
And Tom Brady is at 60 per this offer. I'm just saying, there's a little
Karma or something going on.
There's a little bit like the number has been 30, right?
Yeah.
Why has the number been 30? Because I think he understands the symbolic nature of it. Could I see it happening? Yeah, Vegas makes sense to me. Look, I love Vegas, and Nashville's, I think, the fastest growing state in the United States. There's no state income tax, and there's lots of great things to it. I just can't see him playing with Giselle. We're going to go to Nashville. Like, I can't, Tampa Bay, can't see it. I know they host the Super Bowl next year, can't see it. He's not going to Indy. That's Peyton Manning's team, right? That's not his. He can't go play for Indy. So what's the other options?
Chargers?
The Chargers? I'm the only Charger fan, like the history of sports television, national sports radio. And they're like 7th in terms of popularity in Southern California.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, legit.
The fact that you're still a Chargers fan
got
after the
Tom Brady?
movies.
They're not going to.
They
They're
wouldn't
never
get
going.
fans, but
they're never going to
sell out.
surpass the Raiders.
No.
The Raiders are the most popular team in LA. The Rams are like 5th. Okay, they're never going to surpass the Raiders. They're never going to surpass the Cowboys, who train out there. They're not going to surpass the Steelers, who are much more popular. You have so many transplants. Probably not going to surpass even the Niners, who are popular in Southern California because they were successful. And then you got the Rams. They're not the Lakers, not the Dodgers. I don't see it. You go to Vegas. Vegas is a place where people at the end of their career, Elton John does shows there. Jerry Seinfeld, I'll go play a week of shows at Caesars. Like, that feels like the type of move and the type of place where he and Giselle could go and put their flag in the ground and spread the idea of TB12, which is rejuvenation, right? And rejuvenation, the desert air with TB12. It does actually make sense to me.
You make a nice little argument. None of that had anything to do with football, but I mean,
it's John Gruden who loves old
an older
quarterbacks.
guy does
I
fit
love that
Vegas.
guy. I want to
You're
coach
right.
that guy.
That's where you go when you're doing your older shows. But he's not singing. He's not telling jokes. He's playing football, and I do think a lot of those other places are better football-wise for him. I do think the Chargers will be a better fit football-wise. You know, this year they were bad. But last year, they were good. You know, or 2 years ago, they were a very good team, and they've got the receivers. They'll have the running backs. They've got the skilled players.
They're low. Look, you got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen,
right,
and possibly Melvin Gordon back. You know,
and even if Gordon's not back, Eckler, you got some good running backs.
And then their defense is loaded.
Ready.
You didn't have Derwin James most of last year. I understand all of that. But Shane Steichen got the job as offensive coordinator mid-season last year. He'd never called plays. Tom Brady doesn't want to walk into a room and say, all right, what do you got? What's your style? Let's blend together. And Shane Steichen's
Maybe he
like,
wants to walk in the room and tell them what he's got.
Or does he want to work with John Gruden, who's always wanted to work with him? They're both seen as football guys and football savants. You know, look, I just don't think he wants to go into a room full of guys that are unproven, as opposed to going in a room with John Gruden, who's won a Super Bowl, who's widely viewed as a great football mind, and put their brains together and create the best new offense the Raiders can have.
Well, everyone's saying, you know, can Brady handle Gruden's personality? I agree with you in that, you know, there's talk that Gruden's already toned it down with Derek Carr. I do think he toned it down even more with Tom Brady. So I think Gruden and Brady would be a fine fit. I just think there are other teams that are better equipped to win right away if you have Tom Brady. And look, like I said earlier, I think with the Raiders, okay, if they draft a receiver, maybe that, you know, because you mentioned Jared Jeudy earlier, and he's nice, you know, so if they draft a receiver, maybe they'll have a receiving core. But right now on paper, they don't have the receivers that are even better than what he had in New England. You know, you had the tight end, Darren Waller. Is he really that good, or was he just the guy they needed to throw the ball to because their receivers couldn't get open or weren't that good? You got the running back.
Josh Jacobs.
You got the nice running back. But defensively, they gave up 26 points a game. They got, you know, their pass defense was horrible. So they're not like you mentioned the Chargers, and I think Tampa Bay. Indy, I agree with you. That's Peyton Manning's team. However, if he goes to Indy with Frank Reich, that would be, you talk about a nice tandem.
Yes, but a guy he's never worked with before. Frank Reich makes sense
for
Phillip Rivers because they used to work together in San Diego. Like
I don't think Rivers has as much left. Did Brady work with Gruden?
No. Again, I think it's hard.
I would rather go to Wright than Gruden. If I'm a quarterback, I'd rather work with Wright.
Because
I know Gruden had the show. Well, and Wright's worked with like so many great quarterbacks.
I understand, but I would say that Gruden is seen as a football savant, as a guy who would work. Look, the thing that Gruden was able to do, which I thought was brilliant during his 10 years as a broadcaster, is he's able to go and see what everyone does and take pieces from it and put it all together. And I'm sure he's always thought, if I ever had a brain like a Tom Brady as my quarterback, right? And now maybe he can. You know what the sale is. The sale is, hey, Tom, listen, tell us what wide receivers you want. We'll make it happen cap-wise. We got plenty of equity with all of our first-round picks for youth. Get a young defense. We fixed our offensive line last year. You got Josh Jacobs in the running game. You got Waller. We'll kind of get some of your old compadres, and let's roll. I don't know if Brady's ready to do it, but I do think this is legit leverage to put pressure on the Patriots.
Yeah, I think the Patriots is a better play, but, we'll see if this
Don't you think the Chargers need Brady more than the Raiders for all the reasons you said that the Chargers
need
in Southern California?
They need him to put butts in the seats.
Right.
I don't think, truth be told, they actually need him. I think they think Tyrod Taylor and then draft one of the quarterbacks has been their plan all along. The problem with the Chargers is they played 16 road games the past 3 years, and the organization just beaten up by it because you never get the boost of a home field advantage.
I do think he'll be back. I mean, who knows? You're seeing all types of reports. I think there's a 70% chance. If I had to go 1 through 10, I'd say a 7 that he's back in New England, because what's the alternative for New England? Jarrett Stidham, I mean, unless he's much better than we know. Because you look at the legendary quarterbacks who've all left. Joe Montana. Well, Steve Young was there. Peyton Manning. Well, Andrew Luck was coming in. Brett Favre. Well, Aaron Rodgers was there. I don't think Bill Belichick wants to go through a season without a quarterback that he knows can get it done unless he has to. And that's why I think ultimately the best play for both of these teams, for Brady and for the Patriots, is that he's back in New England. Look, they were 12-4 last year. I know they might not have been as good as the record. However, they beat Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger. They beat Buffalo, a playoff team, twice. They beat Philadelphia. They beat Dallas. They played Tennessee closer than Baltimore did in the playoffs. So if my biggest thing, and I think Brady, everybody's talking about the money. Does he want 30+ million? He wants, I think it's more about respect, and I think it's more about getting him some weapons, because Brady knows, as it's evident to all of us, at 43 years old, he can no longer carry mediocre talent. He's done that most of his career other than Randy Moss and Gronkowski. Now he can't do it. If I'm the Patriots, and I don't know if it's possible financially and all that, I would love to see, if I'm them, I'm going after A.J. Green, and I'm going after Hunter Henry, and I'm bringing back Tom Brady. And I think if you could bring in even one of those guys, Brady would take, especially A.J. Green, I think he'd take a little bit less than market value. His market value is 34. I think he'd take a little less if you're going to give me some talent.
Okay,
and we can win.
There's, look, if you can get A.J. Green, you can go out and get a Hunter Henry, so you have a tight end and a wide receiver to go with an aging Edelman and some of their other players, and help N'Keal Harry figures it out in year 2.
Stays healthy.
Yeah, okay, that makes some sense. But you're mentioning basically the ego of Tom Brady. Like, hey, I want some respect here, okay? I want better players. I want a little bit better pay. I think there's a certain Bill Belichick, I want some respect too, because yes, they were 12-4. Yes, they weren't as good as their record. Yes, they actually played Tennessee close, and Tennessee had to shrink the game by, running off a bunch of clock instead of punting the football because they didn't want to give it to Brady. But the truth is that what was inept about the offense wasn't just the talent, it's also Tom Brady. He is a mediocre quarterback. The definition of mediocre is average. He's an average starting quarterback now.
He was last year.
Yes, and he's not going to get better.
Well, if he gets better weapons, though. A lot of it, it's an opinion. I think a lot of his problems last year were he didn't have the weapons. And QBR and yards per game, he was better than Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, but
he didn't have a Devontae Adams or an Aaron Jones.
Part of the reason is the schedule that the You know, they played
an easier schedule.
They
I'll
played
give
a
you
terrible division, which has helped propel them for all these years, and they played a relatively easy schedule. When they played the good teams, they did beat the Cowboys, but it wasn't because of their offense. They had double passes and trick plays and block punts. They had to cover up the fact that their offense stunk. And yes, I will agree with you. The weaponry wasn't good, right? You had 2-star wide receivers who both imploded. If you had Antonio Brown on that team, that's a good team that might win a Super Bowl. Okay, and that's not Brady's fault. On the other hand, part of the reason that they were mediocre was Tom Brady isn't, as you point out, able to carry the team. Nobody's open, but he can no longer throw guys open. And so if I'm sitting there and I'm Bill Belichick and I'm like, wait, we won 12 games last year with an average quarterback. There are other average quarterbacks from Andy Dalton to Marcus Mariota, and he has Stidham in his system. I'm not saying it's the smart move, but the ego in Belichick may be, hey, he's Tom Brady all time, but he's no longer Tom Brady. And I don't need Andy Dalton to be prime Tom Brady in order to win a championship. I just need him to be as good as Brady was last year and surround him with the supporting talent that Brady wants. If Brady's ego says, I got to go do my own thing, then I think Belichick's ego will say, fine, I can win without you.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.